Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Trade Talk, the collected comic book review show. I'm your host, Niko. This is episode 7, and thanks for tuning in once again. I have 3 books that I read recently that I wanted to talk about today. They're all a little bit different, so let's get right into it. First up, we got Wolverine by Greg Rucka. This is the Ultimate Collection. This is the trade paperback that collects the first 19 issues of the 2003 Wolverine series from Marvel. Of course, this series later went on to have Mark Miller jump on directly after Greg Rucka, and then later on in the run after him, and maybe Jeff Loeb returning. I didn't read that part of it. Maybe other writers, but then eventually Jason Aaron jumped on the title, kind of closing it out a few years after that. That particular launch of Wolverine. But yeah, Greg Rucka is a writer I really enjoy. I will say this trade paperback's out of print. I actually ended up finding it at Fan Expo, which I attended over this past weekend, the Comic-Con in Toronto. I found it for about half price of cover, so it was $20. It was a cover price of $40 when it originally came out, which was pretty good for this trade paperback because it's hard to track down. It's very out of print at the moment. So to any of you, good luck on finding it if it sounds interesting and you do want to check it out. It might be easier just to pick up the issues, to be honest, if you're into collecting single issues. So this was a book that I read when I got back into comics, Wolverine being one of my favorite characters, probably, 8-9 years ago when I got back into comics in my mid-20s. I saw this and picked it up after reading Jason Aaron, because at the time he was writing Wolverine. After reading his stuff, I kind of was like, okay, I got to find other good writers' takes on Wolverine at this point. So I had heard good things about Greg Rucka, so I picked this up. And at the time, I actually had a copy of this, and I sold it or gave it away or did something with it. And I don't remember liking it too much. I can kind of see now why that was, because when I first got back into comics, I hadn't really tried out a lot of things. I didn't really expand my horizons in terms of what I kind of read at that point in time. And I think that I was expecting this Wolverine book to be a little bit more of Wolverine being what most people think of as Wolverine, in the sense that in this book, you don't really see him running around being an X-Men per se. He's just one of these guys. He's just a stranger on the road, kind of going city to city in his travels, and coming across different problems and people, trying to help them in their times of need, just by kind of living his life. In different towns in America and stuff. Even though we see a couple of different X-Men pop up in this, you see Nightcrawler pop up at one point, and the last storyline of this trade has Sabretooth heavily involved, as well as Wolverine trying to track down another person that was part of the Weapon X kind of thing that happened with Wolverine when they him, Sabretooth, and and this other woman that's in this story, I guess, were part of the Weapon X program, basically, when Wolverine got the adamantium put in his bones and everything. So there was another woman that's like Wolverine, has claws and everything in this story, the one at the end in particular, and Sabretooth is tracked down trying to kill him, and meanwhile Wolverine's trying to track this woman and trying to save her because she's being hunted down. Her name was Native, actually. I just looked in the book now and checked it out. I don't recall ever hearing about this woman before. I don't know if this is somebody that Greg Rucka made up, or if it's continued to be part of the history behind the Weapon X program. But there's so many different Weapon X people now over the years at this point that have actually been cataloged online. I've seen somebody post a list before of all the people that they've mentioned that have been part of Weapon X, and now you got this Weapon H in the current comics with the Hulk stuff, other people that were gamma radiated. So it's all a little bit messy. This was my first encounter with this character, this Native woman, but I can't say that I've seen her before. But basically, think of a female Wolverine. That's what you kind of get. She's very feral looking. She's got the crazy, dirty, long locks of hair, and she's got the claws, and she's basically like a almost like a wild animal when he tracks her down. Like he's basically tracking her down like one. And then they end up meeting and having crazy animal-like sex. Wolverine and this native person in this. Anyways, that's like the last arc of this trade paperback. That's like the last few issues. But, it's your classic kind of Weapon X-esque story with Sabretooth being the douchebag that he is, kind of mistreating everybody and tracking down Wolverine, but at the same time kind of working with Wolverine, but then turning his back on the government that's been tracking them all down. So... it's that whole thing. Like, if you've read, that seemed very similar, and it was the last story that Greg Rucka kind of went out on this trade paperback, and if I had one kind of problem with rereading this, with the book this time around, it's that it kind of just ended. And I know that Mark Millar came like, right after that, like, to the book. So, like, it seemed like Greg Rucka didn't really do, like, his, like, swan song of a story and kind of, like, saw himself off of the book. He kind of was just like, this is a work-for-hire thing. Here's another story, a few-issue story about Wolverine, like a Weapon X-related one. This is what you guys want, right? Like, and then he kind of just, like, left the title. The standout thing for me now reading this book again was the art, though. We have Derek Robertson. I mean, a fantastic artist. I love his work. You might have seen him on things like Happy by Grant Morrison. He drew some of The Boys, as well as, I mean, and my personal favorite, Transmetropolitan by Warren Ellis. His work's just great, and the way he drew Wolverine in this is like he's very, like runty, like very, like the size of him, like, like Wolverine sometimes have referred. Not a lot of artists, like, especially ever since the movies, and I believe I heard that actually affected the way Derek Robertson was drawing him towards the end of this run, because they made comments on it, is the fact that ever since, the actual X-Men movies and everything, like, people don't draw him short and kind of, like small, like he originally kind of was, like in the early days, and that's how he kind of appears in Derek Robertson's art in this book. Like he's just like very like short and dirty and kind of like kind of creepy looking, and like I just really like his take on Wolverine and his art in general. And then you got Leandro Fernandez, who's worked with Greg Rucka on other things over the years as well, who did a few fill-in issues that Derek Robertson didn't draw in this. So the art was all really top-notch. Like, Leandro Fernandez is kind of in the school of, like, think of Eduardo Rizzo from 100 Bullets, I would say. That kind of style, like, very shadowy, and his character work is very interesting looking, and he draws sexy women and this kind of thing really well as well. I've seen in other projects, and the reason I say that is because Eduardo Rizzo is kind of the same thing in that sense. He definitely comes from that school of artists. It's so much so I think I've heard before that he actually did learn under like the tutelage of Eduardo Rizzo at one point. Like they either worked in the same studio together, or he kind of like was taught by him, something along those lines. So yeah, the artist's great. That last story, you get a little bit of what you're kind of expecting from a Wolverine story, but the rest of the, like, I don't know, like 14, 15 issues or so of this collection are kind of very, very X-Men-like, un-Wolverine-like. I mean, he's dealing with problems in this that a lot of the things that we actually we're even dealing with today. Like, there's like a whole thing about gun runners in this, and America, and like how easy it is to get a gun, and like he goes to like a gun show to track down these people that are selling illegal guns on the market, because there's like some young girl that ends up getting killed because she got herself kind of wrapped up in the middle of some business at the start of this, because she was like an underage girl on the road. She's maybe like having sex with people for money to try to survive, working at a diner that Wolverine kind of used to frequent, and then all of a sudden he got in the middle of this whole situation with these bad people, and from there he kind of made it his mission to kind of delve deep into this underworld of like these gun runners, and like there's like slave traders, like slave trader people, and like or just people like trying to smuggle people over the border, and this kind of business, right? Like things that you hear about in the news, horrible things and horrible people, like real life type situations that he's dealing with and he's trying to help help people along the way, right? And then there's this cop that kind of was investigating these gun runners that gets involved and like basically falls in love with him, like fantasizes about him, has to tracks him down in different locations as he's going throughout America trying to like get to the center of this gun ring. So yeah, so some really, really good stuff. Yeah, like I said, it's kind of dark and serious and deals with like real life problems. This isn't Wolverine going around superheroing. It's like him as this stranger on the road, just kind of like, you know, not even a friendly face, but somebody that some people look to for help, because he's just there at the time of need for a lot of these like innocents in this horrible world that we that we live in, right? That's depicted, you know, in this title. So I really enjoyed it. That's the Wolverine by Greg Rucka Ultimate Collection, which contains all the issues that Greg Rucka wrote. Once again, with art by Derek Robertson and Leandro Fernandez. So definitely, if you can track down the issues or this very out of print paperback, I definitely suggest picking this up, because this second time around, as a more seasoned comic reader, I really appreciated it because it wasn't like your regular Wolverine story. All right, next up we got Jonah Hex, Face Full of Violence. This is the first volume of the Jimmy Palmiotti, Justin Gray run on Jonah Hex, which I've never read before. I've learned to enjoy what little I've read of this character, but I've always heard good things about Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray's run on this. I've read other things that they've written and enjoyed it. So again, these are out of print paperbacks. There's like, I don't know, 10 of them or so. I ended up finding a few of them at Fan Expo over this past weekend, and a few of them in my travels prior to that. So I've almost got the whole collection of the Jonah Hex paperbacks at this time. But look them up online. I mean, maybe you'll be able to find it from another seller on Amazon if you're looking for these trades, or even go to your local comic book shops. You never know. Like, this isn't like the most popular of characters, so I'm sure you can find the paperbacks cheap out there if you look in a few different places. But yeah, I really enjoyed this quite a bit as well. I thought this was really excellent, and the art is on most of this is Luke Ross and Tony DeZunuga. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. My apologies. Who I believe has worked on Jonah Hex in the past. Like, he's an older artist at this point. I believe that is the case with that artist. They've brought back a lot of interesting, different types of artists in this series, from what I've heard. Luke Ross, I guess, drew majority of the issues in this. I think this collects the first 6 issues of the series, and Luke Ross, I think, drew about 4 of those issues. It's not bad. I mean, he does a serviceable job. I thought it was good for this type of genre. Like, both these artists, they do a good job of drawing like the Western genre, but I felt like with Luke Ross at times, it felt very photorealistic, a lot of his art, and not in a good way. Like, I guess if that's what he was going for, though, mission accomplished. But you saw like a lot of Clint Eastwood in the face of Jonah Hex. Like, you could tell a lot of like the scenes when you're not seeing his mangled part of his face, like his face was made to look like Clint Eastwood. And again, like, that fits for like a Western, and this is a Jonah Hex book, and I get that, like, it works, but it was kind of distracting at times because I felt like I was reading a book with Clint Eastwood. And again, it's a Western, so it's not totally off base of kind of maybe what they wanted or what the artist wanted. Maybe the writers asked them to make him draw him like that. And if that was what Jonah Hex was originally based on back in the day, I'm not even sure, because I'm pretty sure Jonah Hex predated Clint Eastwood movies, but who the hell knows? I sure don't, as you can tell, but I did find it distracting. It wasn't my favorite thing about the art, though. But then you got the Tony DeZunuga that was pretty awesome. His art was kind of old school, very gritty looking. Definitely looks looks like he should be drawing Western comics, and if he has drawn other Jonah Hex comics, I certainly I understand why they would want this guy to come back and put pencil to paper here once again and draw this character, because he did a great job here. But yeah, I will say my favorite part about this trade is that every single story is in of itself like a standalone story. like, none of the issues connect. There's a through line of, I guess, Jonah Hex going on different types of bounty hunts. Like, throughout each issue, he's got a new mission. And you know, within these 20 or 22 pages, maybe at the time when these were published, because they've cut back on a couple of pages over the years in comics, they did a really successful job, I think, in every issue, kind of setting up the mission that Jonah's on at the start of every issue, and by the end of it, he kind of gets his man, right? I mean, that's Jonah Hex. And then somewhere along the way, you find that he always gets mixed up in other people's business, which he doesn't want any part of. You know, he's just trying to do his job. He's trying to get his bounty. He's trying to catch the man. He's trying to kill the man that he's been hired to basically track down or kill or what have you. And he's kind of, you know, just trying to do his thing and move on with his fucking life, because, you know, he's a miserable human being, you know, but he comes across certain people in their times of need, similar to like the Wolverine thing, like I was saying, and he feels he needs to kind of, he gets involved as much as he doesn't want to, and he ends up helping them as a result. So, like, in a way, like, he's not a superhero in that sense. Like, he is almost like an outlaw. You know, he is a fucking bounty hunter. He does kill people in this. He does serve justice and all that kind of stuff. It is technically, I guess, in the DC universe, but this is at a time when Jonah Hex didn't really interact with the rest of the DC universe. Later on, he would in the All-Star Western series that Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray also did during the New 52 launch. But yeah, I mean, at this point in time, this is just like a Western book, a hard-boiled Western story about Jonah Hex, and he's bounty hunting. So it was a lot of fun, and I look forward to reading more of this. And, you know, I'm not going to get into every different type of you know, issue and particularly what happened, but like I said, he's tracking down people and killing them, and doing justice the only way he knows how to the you know, to the people that he meets along the way. Okay, and then last up we have Unnatural Volume One. This is published by Image Comics, written and drawn by Mirka Andolfo, an Italian woman artist who I actually met this past weekend at Fan Expo. Big fan of her work. Very new to kind of at least picking this up, as you can tell. Like, after the show, after I saw some of her artwork, after I saw some of the other DC stuff she's done in recent years, I felt I should go and pick this up. And basically, this is like a sexy fantasy erotica kind of thriller. It's called Unnatural because, and when I first saw this book and I didn't really know too much about this artist or her work, I kind of was, I was a little turned off towards it, because, like, I'm like, oh, what is this? Like, it looks like pigs fucking. Like, basically on the cover you have like a pig woman, you know, who's in all kinds of types of undress. Like, she's basically almost naked. Her, you know, you could see her boobs, and she's got like this wolf hand that's kind of clawing her from behind, and he's got like his hand over like her crotch area, and this is right on the cover, right? And basically when you open it up, the first issue, you're right in the middle of her like erotic dream that she's having, where she's basically having sex with this wolf creature. Like, the scene that's depicted on the cover, you kind of jump right into that as soon as you pick it up. And, you know, I'm no snob, I'm not, you know, I'm not above, like, reading a book with, like, sex in it, or, like, you know what I mean, like, nude scenes or any of that kind of stuff, or, you know, any type of eroticism in it, like, in my comics. Like, if it, you know, if it does service to the story and all that, like, I have no problem with reading any of that kind of stuff. Like, you know, I'm not one who kind of turns up my nose at people that read cheesecakey comics, but again, it really just depends on the content of the comic itself. If you're just straight up reading porn comics, but they're, as you read them, are pieces of trash, and you're just ogling over the art, even though it could be nice art, then that's, you know, that's a different story. But this was actually pretty well done. I actually really enjoyed this first volume. I thought that the premise basically is, I think I got turned off to this at first when I first saw it, not knowing much about it, because the fact that it's anthropomorphic animals that are having sex in this. So I was just like, I don't need, oh, so that's like that pig sex comic. I felt at first when I saw this, I was like, I don't really know if I'm into that. But But yeah, I mean, everyone's basically treated like humans as these comics would, where they got the anthropomorphic animals running around. Like, like I don't dislike Black Sad. Black Sad is a book about basically same thing. It's a world full of people that are animals, and like he hooks up with many pretty ladies as he kind of does his detective work in that book. And I've never turned my nose up at that and said, hey, I'm not reading that. Like, I just think, so I definitely, don't judge a book by its cover. And once you actually delve into this, it was actually quite interesting. Basically, it's called Unnatural because in this world, and I'm sure that's her, the writer artist, making comments on I guess some ways that society basically operates. Still to this day, sadly, is that in this, other species are not allowed. It's illegal for other species to hook up with other species. So, like, this main character in the book, Leslie, or Les as her friends call her, she could only have sex and hook up with, have actual mutual relationships even with other pigs. So she keeps having these fantasies, these erotic dreams throughout the book of her hooking up with this wolf, and she knows it's wrong, and I guess that's part of the attraction to it. Like, it's so wrong, it's kind of right for her, kind of thing, and she's into it, and she's playing with the idea that she could, she's looking for this mystery man, and she's like, wow, these dreams are so vivid, they're so real, and I don't know why, like, I keep having these dreams, like, what's wrong with me? And that's why people call it unnatural in this, and they also comment in this book that it's also wrong for people of the same species to be with each other if they're the same sex. So it's almost as like they're commenting on the fact that people don't want people having sex with other races or religions, like in real life, like how some people are fucked like that and they actually think that's a bad thing, or even gay relationships, right? So and I'm sure that's them commenting on that in this, but basically using these animals to depict that. And also the other interesting thing about this is when they turn 25 in this book, if you haven't found your person, like your mate, through like natural like selection, they're actually going to the government sends you this notice, and you get pretty much summoned to meet somebody that's also still single and not with their mate. They've never found somebody of your own species, and they actually try to push them onto you and like basically force this this marriage of you two kind of becoming mates and coming together as a result of the government's kind of doing. So it kind of felt like almost like Black Mirror-ish in that sense. If you've seen certain episodes of Black Mirror, you might know what I'm talking about with that whole thing, and how that plays out. And at the same time, it's kind of like a thriller and fantasy kind of mystery type story where as you go on, you find out that there's a reason why the dreams are so vivid with her and these and this wolf that she keeps having. Not everything is as it seems. People in her life aren't who they are, who they've portrayed themselves to be. There's a lot of shit happening in the background. People, like devious people that are getting involved in her life for whatever reason, that are kind of pulling the strings. And as the book goes on, it kind of keeps you interested in that sense, because other than the fantastic, wonderful art, which I'm surprised I haven't talked about as of yet, it's beautiful looking art. This artist's work is quite good. I like it. It's pretty clean line. She definitely knows how to draw a sexy female form. So the book is sexy throughout in that sense, and even in the back you get like a lot of like preliminary sketch stuff in this first volume of her drawings of these characters and a lot of like unused covers. So if you're into kind of cheesecakey art, or this person's art in general, because it's quite stunning, I really enjoy it. Definitely check out this book or even her art online before delving in. If this is not something you think you'd be into, then she's done other things as well and is continuing to work on different projects at the moment. This actually just concluded. It's 12 issues total, and this first volume collects the first 4 issues. So there's going to be 3 volumes in total. I think volume 2 is actually out right now. Volume 3, I think, is going to be coming out at the end of the month in September. But yeah, I'm definitely going to pick up the other volumes because I really liked it. Like I said, based on the art alone, but the story did have me intrigued. And I don't really want to give too much away about the story other than what I did. But let's just say not everything is what it seems. This is not just a straight up sexy, like erotic kind of fantasy as I kind of stated it to be, which it is, but there's also a lot of other things going on in the background, which we haven't actually, not everything has even been revealed to you within these first 4 issues. So hopefully it continues to get better and better as it progresses and it comes to a satisfying conclusion. But yeah, Unnatural Volume 1. Also, the greatest thing about this first volume is it's only $10. It's one of those image trade paperbacks that the first volume is $10. So, yeah, pick it up. Like I said, check her artwork online. And if this sounds interesting to you at all, definitely go out there and support it. I mean, check it out. Give it a chance. It's $10. I mean, as I stated, for the art alone, that is worth it on this title. All right, so that does it for today's trade talk. I hope all you guys have been enjoying this show. In the next couple of weeks, I've picked up a lot of interesting new releases recently. I might actually be doing a full all manga episode because I heard some positive feedback regarding me talking about the last manga I did, because not everyone reads manga, and I read a few different titles, and like I said, I'm not as well versed in manga myself, but I actually like coming on here. I would like to come on here and discuss it, and actually discuss my thoughts on some of the things I am currently reading in manga. So yeah, so next couple of weeks we have some interesting new releases that I've picked up over the last week or two between Fan Expo and just at the comic shop, so I'm really looking forward to that. Please check out the Late Night Chat Network page on SoundCloud, where this show is hosted, as well as we do the weekly Wine Comic Time I do with my girlfriend Christine, where we talk about new single issue releases week to week. This is the stuff that comes out before it gets collected in these trade paperback forms, which I talk about on this show. And then we also got our flagship show, Late Night Chat with JT and Niko. That is the show that basically started it all here for us at the Late Night Chat Network, and we've just recently started our own Instagram account. That's Late Night Chat Network on Instagram, all one word, where we'll be posting all kinds of interesting things from all three of us, the hosts on the podcast network. So even some of the Fan Expo stuff, or our comic hauls, more comic related things. If that's what you're listening to this show and that's what you're into, definitely check out that Instagram account, because there's something interesting for everyone on there. Give us a follow. And as well as, we also just started our YouTube account. So I might start posting some comic related videos on there at some point, maybe some videos of my collection, maybe more reviews on YouTube as well as here on the podcast. As time goes on, time will tell. We'll see kind of what I can fit into my schedule, but definitely sign up for the Late Night Chat Network. That is the account on YouTube. Just search Late Night Chat Network and subscribe to it. And that's where we're also doing our Late Night Chat with JT and Niko flagship show podcast that is going to be aired there every weekly with the podcast as well. So there's some funny stuff in those videos. So look forward to all that. And once again, if you have supported the channel, have been listening to any of our shows, thank you once again for doing so. All right. See you guys next time.